This is Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
And welcome. You're here live with Dr. Jeff Werber here, your host for the next 30 minutes on Pet Life Radio's Ask the Vets with Dr. Jeff. Doing a simulcast, we have us here on Pet Life Radio and here on Instagram Live. And as another change of venue, I am in Cabo San Lucas on a little vacation. I see Gila joined. I saw a dinner last night. How funny is that? It's really, when you think about it, being thousands of miles away and you're just walking along the beach and you see one of your own clients from Los Angeles there as well. That is really, really cool. And anyway, having a great time. It is really, today's a hot one. Going back this evening, I've been here since Wednesday, and nice R&R, a lot of time with the fam. And no, we're having a really great time. So anyway, as you know, we're here to talk pets. And anything you want to talk about, now is the time to get a hold of me. A couple of ways you can do this. You can, number one, you can go ahead and reach me live here by going on to PetLifeRadio.com, clicking on shows, click on Ask the Vets with Dr. Jeff, and there is a link. It's a Zoom link left there for you. Please join us on live. You can join us with your pets with you. It's great. Telemedicine at its finest. You get a doc 24/7, at least with AirVet, you get 24/7. Here, at least, we're getting just a doc who's ready and willing and able to help you. Also, you can call us the old-fashioned way, toll-free, 877-385-8882. Once again, 877-385-8882. And so as you know, until I hear from you, you want to send me, if you are here on Instagram Live and there's a specific question, ask me. As the scroll is going up, I can catch the question and share it with everybody, which is really kind of what I want to do. And so let's go for a start that I usually do is I peruse the news, what's going on in the pet world. And, you know, a lot of stuff, we get this the first time as well as you're going, and I like to share it with you, just stuff that you would probably not hear about or know about. And yet I think the stuff is some interesting, some sad, we could go through. Anyway, of course, what would be a show this era, these last year and a half, without talking about COVID? So this is really cool that in Louisiana, the CDC and the Office of Public Health of Louisiana are supporting a program at LSU, School of Veterinary Medicine, to test the in-state dogs and cats for SARS-CoV-2 at no charge through the end of 2021. What's interesting about this, there was just a story that aired on NBC News about some dogs that now this in UK, I guess they're, from a population standpoint, very bad case of COVID. And what they noted is, though that we say, look, dogs and cats don't really get sick. Cats can get a mild cold-like symptoms, a little flu, but they don't get really sick like we do. They rarely have to be hospitalized. Yet there is an uptick. This is from a veterinary cardiologist in the UK, that there's an uptick of cases of what we call myocarditis. That is a muscle inflammation of the heart muscle. And linked, well, in people, it's one of the rare side effects of just the vaccine itself, the mRNA vaccine. And so when you have the RNA vaccine, it's called the mRNA, there's some link, very rare side effect. But they're noticing that in some dogs and cats that have been infected with COVID, though they're not getting the typical COVID signs, they're showing up with myocarditis later on. So it's an interesting observation, and that's all it is at this point. And it's something we're going to obviously keep our eyes on. So I thought that was interesting. As you know, wherever you happen to be in the U.S., I'm sure you've experienced this yourselves, that vet clinics are short-staffed. Short-staffed for a number of reasons, because first of all, some of their employees are coming down with COVID. The way that they are handling the cases, a bit less efficient also. So the relatively, for having this onslaught of people waiting in cars, there's just not enough people to handling the phones are ringing off the hook, not enough receptionists handling the phone calls. So as you know, so many therefore are not accepting new patients at all. And the recommendation is that if you have, because they really, these veterinarians, myself included, really need to save some time for important cases. These are cases that need attention now. So if you have an animal that is on a schedule or is going to need more of an elective procedure. It could be a dentistry. It could be that minor wart removal. That could be spay, neuter, whatever. Book it well in advance. So if the doctor tells you, like, for example, big dogs, many of us are not wanting to spay or neuter until they're over a year of age. In some large breeds, I even do longer, especially with males. Might be a year and a half, might be 2, that maybe 3 months before, at least book your appointment. Get on the schedule sooner. It's not that it used to be, you need your spay next week, you make the appointment now and they'll get you on the surgery table next week. Things are really changing. So you need to be patient and understand that this is going on all over the country. It's not just in highly populated areas. And again, understand, if you are planning on getting a new pup and you have a pickup date of when you're going to get this pup, all right? It's going to be ready like 8 weeks. So you're going to, you decided that a month from now, you're going to go to the shelters, you're going to go to rescue and you're going to adopt the puppy. Make the vet appointment now, because that you might not be able to get in for another month after you already get the pet. So again, just kind of think ahead. Now, this was a fun fact. I even found it fun. I don't do marine mammal medicine, though. Here in Cabo, I've sent pictures. If you look at my social media, a albino python, big monster. All right, iguanas, horses, they're right on the beach here where we're staying. They're bringing horses by for kids to take horseback rides, and really great. And then, of course, dogs. But I expected to see more dogs than I did. But having dinner along the beach, I was able to see a number of dogs walking by. I caught some of them with some photos, but I really did expect to see more. So here's a fun fact. And you've heard of blue whales, but blue whales are part of what we call baleen whales. And here's a stat for you. They can consume around 17 tons of food per day. 17 tons per day. Can you imagine? I mean, that's a lot of food. Now, the largest adult blue whale can weigh up to 190 tons. So even 17, which is like a little less than a tenth of that, that's like, a 150-pounder eating 14 pounds of food a day. If you ate 14 pounds of food a day, you're not staying at 150 very long, that I'll tell you. So, that when you think about it, that is absolutely amazing. And they are also, just as a side note, they believe that these baleen whales are the largest mammals to have ever, or the largest animals known to have ever existed. That's including dinosaurs. So, can you imagine 100 and upwards, up to 190 tons? That's a big whale. And this is also, again, these are one of the stories, we hear all these kinds of stories. Some are really heartwarming. Some are really cool. Some, it's like you want to vomit. It's unbelievable to me what kind of people, and especially for us, being animal lovers as we are, it's even more sickening. I can imagine some people don't really get it. They don't have pets. They don't know pets. They read that. That's pretty cruel. But so this is one of those, I say, a sicko story. Horses belong to a family in West Jordan, Utah. All right, have had their tails cut off 3 times over the past 3 years by some unknown perpetrator. They don't know who it is, why it is. The motive, nobody knows. What are you going to use horse tails for? It's sickening. They get, obviously, doing a non-surgical tail removal. And the story didn't go and tell me how much of the tail. Was it just the tip? Was it, who knows? Obviously 3 times in 3 years, the horses survived, but not possibly without infection, having a problem. So this is a good question. Ollie, the SG pug, we're going to talk about that in a second. I saw a program that showed a vet taking some cells for a dog. Cloning. We'll be interested to hear your thoughts on cloning, and I would be happy to share them with you. And so, in fact, it's a great story, so we may as well go into it right now. Okay, well, this is not a sicko story, but this is one that it's sad. And, we hate these sad stories as well. And that is 2 adult giraffes in the Dallas Zoo have died, and their deaths may be linked. They don't know to what. Well, first, it's a 19-year-old that died of liver failure. Then a week later, a 14-year-old giraffe that died. They saw that there were some abnormal liver enzymes. So they're wondering, when you hear stories like this, liver disease in 2 animals very close together, sharing space, there might be some sort of poison, a toxin that either developed in something they ate, some kind of mold in something they were being fed, obviously not purposely. We hope not purposely. So it's really sad when you hear stories like that these innocent animals, that they're there. Some of them are being saved, some from being put to sleep. I remember a story of an elephant that was sent to one of the elephant reserve sanctuary, and Shambhala, Tippi Hedren's sanctuary, that a zoo just couldn't handle it anymore, couldn't have it. And they searched all over for somebody to take it. Nobody would. So Shambhala accepted it, took it. A great story, by the way. The side note of that story is they had a male elephant there, and it was very aggressive, very aggressive. And they were worried. That's why they were hesitating at first to take this elephant, this female, because they didn't know how the male would handle it, how it would react. But again, they didn't want this animal to put to sleep either. So what they did is they did whatever they could for the male. And they had guys all over it with, like the equivalent of a leash, ropes on it to help control when they saw the female. They were going to march the female up nice and slowly. Check this out. As they started to march the female up towards the male where he was in an enclosure, the male started this vocalization that they have never heard before coming from this male. And then the female started the same vocalization. And as they got closer, it was clear to them the male wasn't like pulling out of aggression. And they got together and they started intertwining trunks as if they knew each other. Not only knew each other, but really knew each other. So they started doing some homework. And interestingly, these elephants originated from the same pod, however many years ago it was, and they were together. And then they were separated. And it was long. You heard that they say elephants never forget. This elephant never forgot. And both of them, they actually recognized each other, even though years and years had gone by. And that is an amazing story. Anyway, with that, we're going to break for a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to answer that question about cloning. And we have some more stories to share with you. If you have any questions, either on my Instagram or here on Pet Life Radio Live, please send them to me right now. You can go on Zoom, share them. We'd love to have you join us, but we'd love to also answer your questions. So don't go away. We will be right back. So, I'm always perusing what's going on in the pet world, and I attend all the pet conferences. I came across a company I really like called Carlson Pet Products. It's family-owned, very affordable stuff, and they specialize in creating pet safety products to keep your pets, happily protected from the puppy stage all the way through their senior years. And they have tons of products. They have pet pens and folded elevated pet beds. They have crates, pet gates, etc. And I love their portable pens. First of all, they're very lightweight. You can fold them up. They have a little carry bag for storing. So they're really so convenient for you to use. You can use them for at home. You can use for traveling. Or let's say you're just heading someplace down the street and you want to keep them protected. I think it's great. So the pet pens come in two sizes. You have a 6-panel and an 8-panel. And so basically you get ample room to explore. And you can add also an attachable canopy. So it creates like a shaded area to protect them from the sun. So for more information, you can visit them at carlsonpetproducts.com. You'll get 25% off your order plus free shipping if you use the promo code PETLIFE. That's PETLIFE. You're going to love them.
How many of you have pets? My hand's raised. Now think about how lucky you are to have such a sweet little pet in your life, and that pet is lucky to have you too. But unfortunately, there are countless pets out there that don't have a home to call their own. However, Bob's from Skechers is trying to change that. So we developed Bob's for dogs and cats to help pets in need. With every purchase of adorable Bob's footwear or fun, stylish apparel, or even the cutest Bob's pet accessories, Skechers makes a donation to Petco Love to help save shelter pets. And with your help, we've already saved the lives of over 1 million pets and raised over $7 million. So while you're getting style and comfort with features like Skechers' famous memory foam cushioning, you're also helping to save an adorable pet in need and helping another lucky owner be connected with a future best friend and companion. Because happiness is having a loving pet by your side. Find Bob's at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, select Petco locations, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
Let's talk pets.
Let's talk pets
On Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
And welcome back here. You're live with Dr. Jeff Werber here on Pet Life Radio's Ask the Vets with Dr. Jeff, and on my Instagram Live. I understand, I'm here in Cabo, so I'm a little far away, and that's Mexico. And I want to make sure that you can hear me. I heard that my connection is lagging a little bit, so I do apologize. Hoping you're getting most of this. And we had a question about cloning. And this is one thing that I feel strongly about, because I don't think people really get something that's very, very important. And that is, I think it was Barbara Streisand, somebody spent thousands and thousands of dollars on cloning one of her pets. And, in all due respect to anybody who wants to do that, God, you know what you can do with those thousands of dollars if you really wanted to help pets? Not clone yours. You know why? Because you will not get what you're expecting. And let me explain. Cloning will give you genetic basis. Okay. So yes, you can have the same genes, but as we know from story after story, okay, about the genetics and versus rearing, experience, environment, that those all have an impact. You can take twins that are separated at birth, same genetic makeup, and completely raised differently, and they are not the same people. Now, many character traits would be the same, and that means that genetics had a strong pull, but they are not going to be the same people. Why? In order to have a clone pet be exactly what you were looking for, you would have to recreate every single moment of that pet, of its experience, duplicate exactly the way it was with the one that you were cloning with. So that means, first of all, that was X amount of years ago. There's no way you can do that. You can't make everything exactly the same. There are too many changes, too many environmental effects that are going to change how that pet turns out, unless you could duplicate everything exactly the same, which is relatively impossible. So therefore, to think that you may get a pet that looks just like your pet. Well, if you want that, there are a lot of, dogs or animals that look like other animals you may have. But if you want the exact same look, then I guess you can clone, but don't think you're getting the exact same pet. And I'm, very, as I say, when I think of the money that goes into it, and then I just don't want people to think that they're going to get another one. I've had some great animals in the past. And I've also had some amazing animals after those great animals. So some maybe even a little better. So you may be cutting yourself short, short if you think that you're going to get the same animal. You could, but just think you might get something better too. So my recommendation, if you have that kind of money and you want to spend it on something, spend it on helping other pets. Don't spend it on trying to duplicate one you already have, because it's not going to work out. So I hope that answers your question. So anyway, blood banks. You know that animals have blood banks just like we do. And they throughout the United States, there are fewer and fewer donors to meet the demands of so many animals that need blood transfusions. So a lot of times people are bringing in their own pets. And I've done this before at my hospital is, I have big dogs and bring them in and take blood. I've done it with one of my cats. It was like a 18-pound cat, and donated blood. It's when you need blood, you need blood. And we do have some blood banks here in LA, but not always the blood type that we need, and sometimes just not enough blood. So anyway, if you have pets, especially if you work at an animal hospital and you have a big strapping dog and you want to help another dog, just be prepared sometimes to bring your own dog in as a blood donor. Now, this is also, if you are near Scottsdale, Arizona, beware of this one. At least 17 dogs in Scottsdale have been sickened, and 15 have recently died. One resident found a piece of chicken in her yard that she had tested and found cyanide in the chicken. Another believes that her 3-year-old cat was also poisoned. Again, we're going back to these sickos. I don't know what it is. For those of us in the animal world, we can't even imagine doing something like that to another animal. And yet it happens, and it is happening. So be very, very careful. If you are living in and around Scottsdale, Arizona, and you have pets in a yard, I would be very, very cautious. Check your yard well. Don't leave them out there alone for too long, because that can be very, very, very dangerous. Next, we talk about this often, and we talk about rabies shots, and I don't like giving too many vaccines in one day. And again, if I'm going to hold off on a vaccine, especially now with leptospirosis, we had another dog this week that had to be put to sleep because of lepto and other things. It was a very old dog, but it's sad. But I would always say, the one that I can, push off is rabies. I mean, I'm not saying push off forever. I'm saying if we have to do, I don't like doing more than 2 vaccines, maybe 3 max, depending on what they are in a day. So I may wait 2-3 weeks in between and then have them come back for the others. And the one that I would usually push off is rabies anyway. And my tagline was, we have not seen a case of rabies in a dog in Los Angeles in like 50 years. It's like, I'm okay. And then I get this story. Texas reports rabies in a child who was hospitalized after being bitten by a bat. We know that bats carry rabies. In people, this is a scary fact, it is almost always fatal, unless the rabies vaccine and human rabies immunoglobulin is administered before clinical signs appear. And one thing about rabies, it is one of the few diseases that you can vaccinate after the exposure, as long as you are protecting them before clinical signs set in. It's a slow enough moving virus that you can be bitten on Monday and Wednesday get a vaccine, all right? And that vaccine will stimulate enough antibody plus human immunoglobulin to help fight off the rabies. But if you don't do that, I remember this is going back to think school where we had to talk about that, the vaccines, the diseases that animals get. It was an old video. My vet school, this was over 40 years ago during when I was a freshman and vet student, and this was older than that. So the video could have been 50 years old, but it was a guy who they were filming who had been bitten by rabies. And I got to tell you, not pretty. You do not want to see somebody suffering from rabies. That I can tell you, it is not a pretty sight. So beware. And interestingly, any of us who work with animals it depends on the type of animals you work with, should be vaccinated against rabies. I know entering vet students were getting vaccinated for rabies. So that is good. Ooh, this is interesting. And one of these, this is the hats off. We get a lot of these stories about certain states that are really, I think, going that extra mile. And this is one that I like. New York State law requires veterinarians to report suspected animal cruelty, though the reports can remain confidential. So it's highly recommended, of course, but in New York, it's actually requires. And another new law, you're going to love this one. It is New York, but when these things happen, you hope that it's going to happen in more states. Bans homeowners insurance plans in New York from denying or canceling coverage or setting higher premiums based on the breed of a dog living in the home. In other words, we've heard this all over the country when it comes to Rottweilers and pit bulls, that they're amping up. Either they're not letting homeowners insure, all right, or they're denying any bite-related problem. And if you want to get coverage with the dog, and we'll cover you, but we're going to increase your premiums. And now the state of New York is saying, no can do. So I think that's great. So maybe we'll have a situation where more will think about, if you want to move to New York, I don't know, it may not be worth it for all that. But having come from New York, I could say that. And my brother lives in New York, but I wouldn't move back there. But anyway, it's too cold. So speaking of cold, the last story here. And again, maybe a little premature, but as I'm here and the people sitting behind us are from Iowa, where it's already getting down to 40 and 30 degrees at night. And it's only early November. So it does get cold in many parts of the country. If it's too cold for you, it's probably too cold for your parents. Of course it's too cold for your parents, but too cold for your dogs. So if you are a pet parent and you are feeling the cold, chances are your dogs are feeling it too. And you want to make allowances for outdoor pets, and animals should be given warm shelter in the winter. All right. And then that especially the very young, the very old, or the infirm. So any dog or pet that's having medical issues they don't have the ability to fight off the cold, to do the bodily functions that normally set in when it's too cold, like shivering, for example. So even healthy, heavy-coated animals, like your winter animals, your huskies, your Malamutes, your Samoyeds, that they too need shelter. And, yes, they are protected and they can still work, but if they're stationary and they can't exert, and they can't get their body temperature up through exercise and exertion, like pulling sleds, working dogs, then they also can suffer from frostbite, from being too cold, especially their feet. Remember, their feet have issues. Anyway, for those of you who could hear me, those of you on Pet Life Radio, thanks for joining me here live. If you have any topics, anything you would like me to discuss, please send me a note to Dr. Jeff at PetLifeRadio.com or Jeff@airvet.com. On my Instagram followers, if you can hear me, go ahead and just send me anything you'd like to send me. You can always reach me on Instagram, and we'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for joining me here, and we look forward to having you here next week, here meeting on Instagram, here meeting on Pet Life Radio. I will be there. That's back home in LA. Have a great week, everybody. Bye-bye.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.